Today, we're going to talk about burnout warning signs and why you can't afford to ignore them. All right, so we're going to start off with a quick story. I was a fellow, meaning I finished my residency, that's 5 years of residency, and I was doing my fellowship year in critical care. And so at this time, I had my sixth child, my youngest, in fellowship. And so at this time, he was about 4 or 5 months old. And so I've been on call for multiple days in a row. And on my one day off, I figured, you know what, I missed out on a lot of things while I was on call. So today is my day to make up for all of that. And so instead of resting, I decided I was going to take all the kids out. We're going to go get ice cream, and then we're going to go to the park. And then I'm going to do all the things that I missed out on all the weeks I was on call. And so we get the kids in, me and my husband. He buckles in the older children. I'm with the baby. I buckle him in, and then I sit down in the front seat. And as soon as I buckle my seatbelt, this wave of just exhaustion overtakes me. And all of a sudden, I start bawling. I start crying I can't explain it, no reason. And it scares my husband, it scares my children, it scares me. And my husband asks, like, what's wrong? What happened? What happened? Are you hurt? And all I can say in between my sobs is, I'm tired. I'm so tired. And so at this time, he's like, okay, we're done. We're not doing this. And so I get off the car. He says, go take a nap. I go and take a 10-hour nap. He takes the kids out. And that is the first time I've ever felt the weight of all the burnout I've been feeling for the past 5, 6 years all at once. I had never taken vacation. All of my vacations have essentially been maternity leaves. And anytime that I had off of work, whether, when I wasn't pregnant, I was always doing stuff with the kids. And so this is when I realized the weight of burnout when it goes unaddressed, how it can show up so drastically. It's basically your body saying enough is enough. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, the warning signs of burnout to look for before it presents in such devastating ways. I'm Dr. Khalil Hussein. I'm a full-time double board certified trauma surgeon. I'm also a mom of 6 and the founder of Defiance Academy, where I teach professional women how to balance their faith, family, and career without burning themselves out in the process. And so in this video, I'm going to show you the hidden signs of burnout to look out for before it takes over your life. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and that you turn on your notifications so you don't miss our weekly videos on burnout and how to recover from it. All right, so let's get into it. So 3 things we're going to cover today. Number 1, we're going to talk about why we don't recognize the early signs of burnout. Number 2, we're going to talk about what burnout signs actually look like. And number 3, we're going to talk about how to recognize the early signs of burnout before you collapse. All right, number 1, why don't we recognize burnout signs early enough? Because we're not taught to look out for burnout. The reason burnout hits us so hard is that no one teaches you to look out for it. In medicine, in corporate workspaces, and in high pressure fields, we're taught to work harder, stay strong, and keep it together, right? The whole concept of superwoman, being a superwoman, having a full-time job and coming home and taking care of everything, that's rooted in the fact that you're expected to carry it all and you're expected to excel in it. And so what happens? You don't look out for signs of burnout because it's not a thing. You're supposed to carry the weight. You're not able to make time for rest because there's only 24 hours in the day. And in those 24 hours, you're fulfilling and juggling 2 full-time jobs. I ignored my burnout until that day in that car, until that day when my body physically said enough is enough. And that happened because I've been running on fumes for years and I normalized it as just being tired. So number 2, what do burnout signs actually look like? Here is what I wish somebody would have told me earlier. Burnout doesn't always look so dramatic. Sometimes it starts with very small, subtle signs of physical exhaustion. Like you take a nap, but when you wake up, you're still tired. You have constant brain fog. You get headaches. And they're sometimes situational. You get headaches when you're at work. You get headaches when you're frustrated with situations at home, right? Or you feel like you're carrying this invisible weight. You're doing all the things, you're busy, but you always feel like there's something missing. There's something that you forgot, right? And sometimes burnout can show up in your emotions. You feel disconnected from your loved ones. You have loss of motivation. You feel numb. And sometimes you find yourself snapping at your loved ones, snapping at your kids, and you have no idea why. And you're just easily overwhelmed by the simplest things. And eventually, this becomes your new normal. You're in a high functioning burnout where you're still performing, but deep down inside, you're dying. Most ambitious and high achieving women miss this because we've normalized it. It's okay for us to be busy and always occupied and always have our minds running. Even if you're sitting still, your mind is always occupied with other things that you're responsible for. But burnout is not normal. Burnout is your body's way of saying enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. Right? So what do we do next? Number 3, how do you recognize early warning signs before you collapse? All right. So I'm going to give you examples of normal things that we do in other parts of our life, but we don't do it with burnout. Okay. If your child gets sick, what do? You take your child to the pediatrician to figure out what's wrong so they can diagnose it and fix it. If your car breaks down, what do? You take it to the mechanic so they can figure out what's wrong, and then we fix it. But what happens with burnout? What do we say? In our corporate workplaces, what do they tell us? Oh, let's do some mindfulness exercises. Let's see, maybe you need a vacation, right? We're prescribed treatments before we even get to the root cause of our burnout, right? There are a lot of workplace related issues that are the root cause of our burnout, but we don't talk about it, right? But we miss a very important step in figuring out why are we burned out, and we're given solutions before we even figure out why we're burned out in the first place. So if you don't know what the root cause of your burnout is, every solution doesn't work. That's why when they tell you take a vacation, you take a vacation and you come back to the same situation, right? Because we haven't identified the underlying cause. And guess what happens? You burn out again, right? They tell you take a nap or go get a massage. You do that. What happens afterwards? Your burnout comes back because we haven't resolved the underlying problem. So what happens with these temporary solutions is you're in constant burnout, small recovery, burnout, small recovery, burnout, small recovery. It's this vicious cycle. And so the reality is you can't heal from something you haven't identified. If you haven't identified the root cause of your burnout, you can't heal from it. You can't recover from it. That's why we use the Burnout Recovery Code in our programs at Defiance Academy. It's a 3-step process to identify, stop, and prevent burnout. The first and most important step is learning how to identify burnout. How is it affecting you? How is it showing up in your life? Because when you identify how burnout is showing up in your body, in your emotions, in your behavior, you can catch it early, long before it becomes a crisis and you crash out. And that's exactly where I want you to start today. I've created a free burnout quiz to help you pinpoint exactly where you are on the burnout scale, whether you're in the early stages, you're deep in burnout, or you're already on your way to recovery. Think of this as your first diagnostic tool because awareness is the beginning of healing. Once you take the quiz, I want you to come back to this video and leave a comment with your burnout score. I'd love to hear this because when we do this in our burnout workshops, most of the people who come there are already in burnout. Majority of the burnout scores are in the critical area. So I'd love to see where everybody's is at, and feel free to share how burnout has shown up in your life. If this video helped you see burnout and how it shows up a little bit more clearly, check out the next video where I'll be showing you the hidden causes of burnout.